My presentation today is beyond psilocybin. So truly, mushrooms are magic. They're magic in many ways. They are medicinal, edible, mysterious, and adaptable. And they've been around for 1.3 billion years. We've enjoyed a really close and long-standing relationship with fungi for eons. We've used these organisms as fire starters, antibiotics, food for making bread, cheeses, tofu, things like soy sauce, flavor enhancers, preservatives, alcohol, even hallucinogens to facilitate connection to the spirit realm. So today they're being fashioned in things like furniture, art, insulation, packaging. They're being investigated and used for bioremediation of heavy metals, toxic wastes, radiation, and explosives. Kind of like some other plant we know, cannabis, hemp, how can be remediation for soil. They're finding mushrooms are the same way. Fungi are employed in reforestation projects and numerous varied industrial applications. Alternative fuels, in farming, they're being used as pesticides, in food production and vitamin manufacturing. So we've discovered that fungi are chemical factories all their own and have the potential to provide us with new medicines as well as new nutritious foods. And when many think of mushrooms, they think of, the ones you see in the grocery store, the ones that are button you slice up for salads or you saute for, your steak, on top of your steak, or stir fries. And then when others think of mushrooms, they think of the red-capped, cartoon-like mushrooms, right? That are poisonous. Those have flooded the media recently. Those are amanita mushrooms, and they can produce a psychedelic effect. Or psilocybin mushrooms, so psychedelic mushrooms, which are the mushrooms that you often hear are responsible for that psychedelic reputation. But what many don't realize is that there are some very powerful mushrooms that can also benefit our health. And mushrooms you may never have heard of, but have been used by healers for centuries. And now more and more research is being conducted for how they can prevent illness, support immunity, and even aid in cancer treatments and treatments of Alzheimer's and dementia. These are big things, especially for us nurses. Today we're going to touch on just a little bit of the history. There's so much, but just a little bit of the history. I want to pique your curiosity and get you thinking. We're going to talk about mushrooms in medicine. Say that 5 times fast, right? Mushrooms in medicine, where we are today with mushrooms, and essentially what the future holds. And just a little bit on me. My name is Jamie. I've been a nurse for 20 years now. I can't even believe that. With my journey weaving in between hospice, cannabis, psychedelics, and business. I'm essentially an entrepreneur, business owner. You'll hear a little bit more about that later as well. I'm excited to be here today. I always love presenting with Cannabis Nurses Network. I love the programs they have, so it's really an honor to be here speaking. And the community that we have allows us to do things like this, bring information to folks, pique curiosity, break stigma. So this is great. So I'm obviously excited to be here today and share with you my new fascination, which is with mushrooms. So hopefully by the time we're finished, you too will be proudly mushroom mad. So welcome to my chat about the magic of mushrooms beyond psilocybin. Understanding the power, history, and future of mushrooms in medicine. And just a little recap what we're going to go through. History, mushrooms today, research, learn more, connect with me. So just a little history on mushroom medicine worldwide. The reishi mushroom in Chinese medicine is known as the mushroom immortality. It's been used to boost immune system, reduce inflammation, and to promote overall health and longevity. These ancient practices are now being supported by modern scientific research, and they're shedding light on the potential of mushrooms as valuable tools in healthcare. The turkey tail has a long history of a medicinal mushroom. So here, reishi, if you don't know what a reishi mushroom looks like, this is a reishi mushroom. Turkey tail, lots of amazing mushrooms. So turkey tail, they have a long-standing history as a medicinal mushroom. And right now they're the most researched mushroom for medicine in 2024. So that's exciting. We'll chat about that in just a bit. They traditionally used in Chinese medicine and by indigenous cultures, known for their potential to support, again, immune function. You hear a lot of that with mushrooms, the immune function, and fight against various diseases, kind of like something else we know, cannabis, CBD. So modern research is now validating a lot of these claims that have been around. Obviously, a lot of our ancient medicines are now being validated with research and showing that turkey tail contains compounds that can stimulate the immune system and potentially aid in the treatment of cancer and other illnesses. Paul Stamets has a great story of turkey tail mushroom tincture with his 84-year-old mother who had breast cancer, and she wasn't able to have any treatments, but the turkey tail mushroom in conjunction with, I think, some of the chemo, maybe there's a little chemo done, she doesn't have cancer anymore. So check out that story. You can probably Google it. It's easy enough to find. Shiitake and maitake mushrooms are mostly in Japan, were mushrooms that were used for, again, traditional medicine. A lot of these immune boosting properties, which are believed to support overall health and well-being. So today, modern research is uncovering specific compounds in these mushrooms that may be contributing to all these medicinal benefits, again, and opening up new possibilities for their use in healthcare. And then we've got chaga, lion's mane in Peru. So you can see this is all over the world. Mushrooms are being used all over the world as traditional ancient medicines. It's not just in one region. There's history everywhere. Mushrooms have been worldwide. So in Peru, they've used medicinal mushrooms, long history of use for healing practices, and mushrooms like chaga and lion's mane, they've been utilized for their brain health. To improve cognitive function and reduce the risk of neurodegenerative diseases. So again, the area of mushrooms in understanding where they can improve just these, use as supplements as we're implementing more and more mushrooms daily into our diet, what people are finding, and a lot of people are finding the power of thought. There's research to back this up. We're going to chat about that in just a moment. So psilocybin, I know this says beyond psilocybin, but I can't talk about mushrooms at a cannabis nurse event, a conscious nurse event, without touching base on psilocybin just a bit. So you most likely have heard of psilocybin as magic mushrooms, and they have a long history of use in indigenous cultures for spiritual healing. And they contain a psychoactive compound, and this can induce an altered state of consciousness. And they've been used in therapeutic settings to help treat conditions such as depression, anxiety, and addiction. And there have been a good deal of studies being conducted now, and recent studies have shown that psilocybin-assisted therapy for mental health disorders is really, truly benefiting people in the mainstream. So Maria Sabina, who was a Mazatec curandera and shaman, really was the woman. I always like to point Maria Sabina out anytime I talk about psilocybin. She really was the one who introduced psilocybin to our Western world. So you should Google her if you're interested. Very interesting story about how psilocybin came to be in the United States. In the tradition of mushrooms, so like 1955 was the first Westerner who found Maria Sabina. So this is not that long ago we're talking. So interesting history there. So in mushrooms today, right? Mushrooms in medicine. We see mushrooms in medicine what's one antibiotic? Penicillin, right? I mean, how many of us completely forget that that's a fungus. That's because of a mushroom. They were putting moldy bread on wounds back in World War II and finding that they were not having infection. So it's crazy to me to think like how some of these things come to be is medicine. Like who would have an idea to slap something moldy onto an open? I don't get it, but it's amazing these downloads that people get. Cyclosporin, things like lovastatin, a compound found in oyster mushrooms that can lower blood cholesterol. I didn't know that lovastatin is based off fungus. Cyclosporin, penicillin, that's really in medicine today. These are the big things. Polysaccharide peptides, those are what are being studied in turkey tail mushrooms for their anti-cancer effects. Beta-glucan, bioactive polysaccharides found in edible mushrooms. Okay, and they've been used in medicine since ancient times. And then let's say psilocybin and LSD as well, because those would be considered medicines today as mushrooms. And just to talk a little bit on the psychedelic piece, psilocybin and LSD they're both fungus. LSD was derived from a fungus, ergot. So those hallucinogens are based on fungus. These can create psychedelic experiences for healing. They do create an altered state of consciousness. Really important if you're going to be utilizing these fungus to have a proper set and setting. If you don't know what that is, research providing yourself a really good set and setting. You won't be disappointed. These can facilitate spiritual experiences. A lot of people today are using mushrooms as supplements, right? So they are using capsules, powders, teas, tinctures, extract. I have just an example of like how these can come. They can come in little powder packages. You open up, you put in your coffees. They can be in capsules that you take daily. I take these guys that are the Stamets 7 Daily Immune Support. And then they can come in tinctures, which again, like you'll see in cannabis medicine, how, you know, potent tinctures can be. And so you can get it in turkey tail tincture. There's all kinds, lion's mane tincture. There's all kinds of tinctures. So there's a variety of ways to be able to take these earth medicines, I call them, because they're not plants and they're not animals. So they're right in the middle. They're their own kingdom. So they're their own medicines. And this is really fascinating, how mushrooms are being used now as an alternative to chemical pesticides. So this is great news. I always hate when, you know, I live in Florida, so we have a lot of bugs, there's a lot of pests here, so we require pest control. But I have animals, and I would hate when they came in and sprayed the chemicals. I swear I could always taste it on my mouth. I found a company down here that uses mushrooms as bug pesticides. So I am now doing this. And I encourage you to take a peek at the possibilities in your area as well, because fungi are being used as biological pesticides or biopesticides. They're targeting specific insects or pests or plants or plant diseases. Biopesticides are, you know, they're less toxic than their chemical counterparts and, you know, safer for the environment. One biological pesticide in agriculture called trichoderma is a beneficial fungus that colonizes plant roots and outcompetes disease-causing fungus. So fungus fighting fungus, right? Trichoderma protects plants from soil-borne pathogens and non-food crops, fruit and vegetables. So all, you know, the side effect is that over time it stimulates plant growth and increases plant defenses. So that's non-chemical. Another commercially used biopesticide, sorry if this is the pronunciation's wrong, Wueveria bassiana, and that's a fungus that acts on insects. So includes like aphids, whiteflies, fire ants, bed bugs, nurses, bed bugs. The fungal bodies adhere to the insect's exoskeleton, and then they slowly dissolve a hole in the insect. So the fungus penetrates the body, proliferates, and then essentially produces spores and liquefies the insect. So again, no chemicals, right? There's another fungus called Pytherium oligodrum, and that protects crops and turf from roughly 20 soil-borne pathogens. So they're using these in farming. And it's an alternative to fumigant, methyl bromide. So, you know, like the stuff they spray on fruits and vegetables to prevent them from decaying. Well, they're replacing that chemical with a fungal, believe it or not, so that it keeps the harvest fresher, longer periods of time to be able to transport them. And then in tropical countries, I mean, this is a big deal too for nurses when we talk about infection control. They're using biopesticides in like treated bed nets to put over like to help with malaria, to kill mosquitoes. So there are all sorts of ways that they are using mushrooms, and I found that just absolutely fascinating, hoping maybe some of you do too. And then bioremediation. Again, this is where it's, you know, similar to what we see with hemp and how soil is, you know, the bioremediation that happens in toxic fields that have been just polluted with chemicals and fertilizers. They, you know, put hemp plants in there, that soil does come back. Turns out, go figure, that fungi are also really great at pollution remediation. So it's called mycoremediation, and they use fungi to break down and remove a range of contaminants. So we're looking at oils and chemicals, hydrocarbons, and even mercury. So, I mean, that's pretty, mercury and lead. So that's pretty amazing, I think. And I'm super happy to be able to share that with you guys here today too. And then suitably, we have turkey tail, which is also good for mercury remediation. And a mushroom called the garden giant mushroom can be used for E. coli removal. So these are really, like, the potential here is great. And there is a ton of research, and I'm just going to chat a little bit about two of these mushrooms, lion's mane and turkey tail. Like I had shared before, turkey tail is one of the most researched mushrooms nowadays, and the lion's mane is close behind, but studies have shown with turkey tail for gastric cancer that the use of the PSKs as an adjunct therapy, that's what they're calling essentially the polysaccharides from the turkey tail. Studies show that the use of these as adjunct therapies in patients with gastric cancer may help repair immune cell damage caused by chemotherapy and strengthen the immune system. So studies, a couple of the studies that they did one in Japan, and it included 751 patients who had surgery for gastric cancer. And then after the surgery, the patients received chemo, with or without PSK. And then on average, the patients who received chemotherapy plus the turkey tails lived longer than those who received chemo alone. So the researchers believe it might be possible to predict which patients would benefit from PSK depending on the numbers of granulocytes and lymphocytes in the patient's blood. So 1994, another study in Japan, and they were 262 patients this time. And same thing, given chemotherapy with or without, and the patients who received had a less of a recurrent rate of cancer and lived longer than those who didn't. So there is definitely more information on gastric cancer and colorectal cancer. They've shown with turkey tail that, again, that combination of chemotherapy and PSK, they have better results for longer lifespan. They did some studies with lung cancer as well, and essentially same results. So consistent across the board with different cancers. And then lion's mane. And look how beautiful these are. I just absolutely love that this is fuzzy. I'd love to find one of these out in nature live one day. Have not yet, but I've seen these. But yeah, that lion's mane would be cool to come across. But what's interesting about lion's mane is it kind of looks like a brain, right? Where like all the neurons, like all like hairy, like nerve endings. And it's funny because this is the one that they're doing a lot of studies on for the brain nerve dysfunction. Lion's mane may protect nerve cells. That's what the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry said in a 2015 abstract that they were looking at. And it also shared what else, the other health promoting benefits that these mushrooms had, reducing blood sugar, reducing high blood pressure, maintaining healthy energy levels, combating fatigue, helping to prevent excess blood lipid accumulation, so cholesterols, kind of things like that, protect heart health, slow biological aging, protect liver health, and protect kidneys. So the lion's mane mushroom may be a potential alternative treatment for depression as well, which was, again, we're thinking brain, according to a 2020 abstract in the Journal of Molecular Science. So this abstract was highlighting mostly that it was increasing the nerve growth factor, which apparently with people who are living with depression have a lower nerve growth factor than non-depressed people. So by increasing this nerve growth factor, it's helping to grow and remain healthy nerves, which is an important aspect of mood regulation, right? A lot of times you'll hear lion's mane associated with memory and cognitive function. There is so much we really have yet to discover about mushrooms, and I, for one, am really excited about what the future holds with these, earth medicines. And I hope, if anything, I've piqued your curiosity as to how these can be incorporated into your daily wellness regimen. And if you want to learn more, there's opportunities. If you haven't seen Fantastic Fungi, it's a great place to start. Awesome movie about fungus in general, how amazing the mushrooms are. Goes over a lot of what I talked about today in a much more in-depth way. The movie Dosed was really lovely. If you're looking for something to read, anything on medicinal mushrooms that you can find, or how to change your mind. If you're interested in following me on social media, you can find me at the.mushroom.muse on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok. You can follow Paul Stamets. He's a well-known mushroom guy. And see if you have a local foraging groups. I know one of our nurses, Taylor Hayes, who's a cannabis nurse as well, has a mushroom group that she does in Alabama and leads it. So there's lots of nurses who are also mushroom lovers. So you can find us. Attend whatever conferences that you can come up with to learn more. And then here are my references. Thanks so much for joining us. So everybody have a great day. I hope that you are curious about mushrooms.